Surely success is no accident. Today we're going to talk about some core success principles that you must follow in order to create a prosperous future for yourself. These principles work for digital nomads and expats as well. Doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter how old you are, these principles work for pretty much everyone. You want to secure a decent visa for yourself. And I cannot stress this point enough, because how much you end up spending on a visa will make a huge difference. It will determine whether you have a great life or a poor life, a not so successful life. Because if you end up spending a ton of money to get into a country and you're pushing yourself, to the edge of what you're actually allowed to spend, then that is not an intelligent decision. If you were a digital nomad, I can advise you to go with a digital nomad visa. And they're available across the globe on different continents in different countries. So there is dozens and dozens and dozens digital nomad visas offered by governments across the globe at the time of shooting this video. So whether you want to live in Malaysia, whether you want to live in Argentina, whether you want to live in Costa Rica, Croatia, it doesn't matter where you want to live. You want to secure yourself a low-cost digital nomad visa. As a rule of thumb, digital nomad visas are issued anywhere from 6 months to 24 months. Most likely, they're issued for 12 months with a 12-month extension. Processing fees for digital nomad visas are pretty low, so don't be surprised if you only spend maybe $100 to $150 on the issuance of the visa. And that's great, because the whole point of this video is for you to save money, is for you to preserve capital so that you can save more and invest more, because whenever you're able to invest more, you're building your net worth, right? You're building more income streams, and that's the situation you want to be in. In the event that you are an expat, maybe a digital nomad visa is not the right fit for you. So what you can do is you can actually go to a place, where a long-term visa is offered, or where the government allows you to legally overstay your visa. And countries like this include the Dominican Republic, right, where you can go to the Dominican Republic, live there, overstay your visa legally, and just pay an overstay fee upon departure. Then there's countries like the Philippines that will allow you to stay in the country for up to 36 months. Obviously, you have to pay for extensions, so it's not for free, but it's a good deal. So once you have figured out all the visa stuff, it is time for you to come up with a plan for how much you want to spend on rent, because your rent is your biggest expense, right? Whether you live in the Philippines, in the Dominican Republic, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, Latin America, Africa, it doesn't matter where you decide to spend the majority of your time in, you want to make sure that you spend less than 30% of your income in rent. If you were to make $3,000 a month, you would want to spend less than $900 a month in rent. Why is that? Well, first of all, you want to have more left over so you can spend money on other things, such as dining out, such as groceries, such as really, really important stuff like insurance, health insurance, internet, traveling. So if you were to spend 50% of your monthly income on rent, you wouldn't have that much left over, and it would put you in a difficult situation if something should go wrong. So if you were to make $3,000, spend less than $900 a month in rent. If you live in an ultra low-cost country like the Philippines, like Argentina, like the Dominican Republic, those countries are low cost. I'm not sure if ultra low cost is the right term, but they're low cost when compared to westernized countries, right? You spend a lot more in Western countries than you spend in developing countries. So if you can get by with just spending $400 to $500 a month in rent, because cheap rentals are available, then you want to do that, because the bigger of a cushion you have, the better it is for you. You can spend more on other things, and most importantly, you can save and invest more as well. I wanted to pass on to you a really important tip, and that is for booking Airbnbs. Because if you were to stay in a country for 6 months, maybe it's difficult for you to find a landlord that would agree to rent you the apartment for 6 months unless you do it through a platform like Airbnb. A lot of places, they will only do 12-month contracts. There are exceptions, I know that, and you know that, but often, very often, that is not possible in many countries. So the best you can hope for is to contact some property owners on Airbnb and negotiate the price on the platform. Let's say a property would cost you $1,500 a month, and you could contact them and ask them for a bigger discount. Tell them, I want to stay in your apartment for 3 months. Can you do it for $800? And you can tell them, you know what, I can even pay you up front, just to sweeten the deal. If you can pay more up front, there is a bigger incentive for the landlord to actually give you a better price, right? I mean, maybe a 40 to 50% discount is too much, but if you were to spend maybe $1,400 and you would ask for maybe a 30% discount because you end up staying 3 to 6 months, I think that's reasonable, and it's an amount that the average owner might agree with. What I also want to add here is that some Airbnbs don't offer monthly discounts. And if that is the case, then you could make the argument that you find Airbnbs that are cheaper, but you would like to stay in theirs because you like the design more, you like the furniture more, you like the location more, whatever you prefer about the apartment, make sure you point that out, but tell them that you are on a budget and you can only spend so much money per month. Co-living has become more popular among the younger generation, but it doesn't mean that, people that are above the age of 40 or 50 don't want to do co-living at all. In fact, a lot of people do. But the reason why co-living has become so popular is, first of all, it's cheaper because you do have your own space, whether that's a studio or a 1-bedroom, that depends on the price and the co-living space. And secondly, because you can live with other like-minded individuals, so there's a lot of positive aspects to it. The internet is already installed, it's ready to go, so a lot of things are already taken care of. On the negative, you do have a lot of shared living spaces, like potentially the kitchen. You have a shared kitchen, you have maybe a shared bathroom, you have a shared living area, so you have all these shared areas, and that's why you actually end up spending less than you would if you were to book an Airbnb. Co-living places can be good, they can be bad. It really depends on what your goals are. If you do live in a co-living space and you wanna be as productive as possible, then you want to set aside working hours, where you don't get interrupted at all. And if that means you have to work from your apartment, from your studio, from your bedroom, and not from the common living area, then that's what you gotta do. Oftentimes people would get distracted because they're hanging out with more people, they're living with more people, and naturally it is more difficult to stay focused, and it is more difficult to stick to your schedule because you have people around you who want to spend time with you, which is a very positive thing. But at the end of the day, making money, saving money, and investing money must be your main priority if you want to build wealth, right? If you want to do that. So my advice is, you can definitely do co-living and co-working, but be mindful who you spend your time with and how much time you give to them. Because at the end of the day, once you develop the habit, it's very often difficult to break that habit. So I don't want you to get in a situation where you spend less on your living costs because you decided to go with co-living, but you're much less productive because you always end up saying yes to the people around you. What about dining out and groceries? It's a really important subject. As a rule of thumb, if you live in a developing country, dining out is a lot more affordable than it is in a Western country. If you live in a developing country, then you probably want to dine out more because cooking takes a lot of time. You got to buy groceries, you got to go to the grocery store, the supermarket, you got to carry the stuff home, you got to prepare it, you got to wash the dishes, right? There is a lot of work involved. On the positive side, if you end up cooking at home in a developing country, you can control your sodium intake a lot more than if you were to eat outside. And that is especially true in a place like Southeast Asia, where food is really, really seasoned a lot. Foods there are spicy, they're high in sodium, and if you end up eating, very delicious foods every single day for many, many decades, then that will not be too good for your kidneys. So I wanted to make this clear. But you can still eat out sometimes, or really be mindful about where you eat and what you consume, because at the end of the day, it's your body, and your body is not a trash bin, right? It should be treated with respect. If you were to live in a developed country, in a Western country, dining out a lot may be too expensive because restaurants are expensive. They have very expensive prices. Life is all about priorities. Life is all about what you want it to be. And I think if you want to create a lot of success, you want to stay away from activities that drain your energy. And the activities that I'm talking about include partying, like drinking a lot, taking drugs. If you want to have a lot of success, you want to cut down on that as well. It's not only good for your health if you drink a lot less, if you take fewer drugs, it's also better for your wallet. And at the end of the day, it's a lot of time spent, it's a lot of money spent, and again, your energy is limited. So the time that you spend partying, that you spend drinking, could be used for other activities. I'm not saying that you should never go out and have a drink, or that you should never go out partying. You can absolutely do that, but if you do it every single day or a couple times a week, you may stretch your budget too much, and it will actually hurt you in the long term. Don't move too much. And that's why I think it's a very intelligent decision for you to obtain a mid to long term visa, because the people who move a lot, they spend a lot more money. It doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. It clearly isn't. But if you wanna, again, make sure that you save as much money as possible, if you want to make sure that you preserve as much capital as possible, so you have more and more money to invest and create more income streams, then that's got to be your priority. It's got to be your priority to just travel less, because traveling is not cheap. You have a lot of expenses. You have expenses for commuting from your place to the airport, whatever you spend on an Uber or taxi. Then the flight tickets, that's expensive. Food at the airport. And then when you get there, you have to arrange a new place. So there's a lot of money that goes into it. There's a lot of time that goes into planning a vacation or a new digital nomad location. It is not free, and it does take a lot of time. Taxes is a really important subject. So if you were to move to a country that does not tax your overseas income, and neither are you obligated by law to pay taxes back home. And by the way, I'm not a tax advisor, I'm not a professional, so this is just my opinion. But if you are from a country that does not tax your income, if you don't live in the country for a certain number of days, usually it's 100 to 183 days a year, if you're outside your country of nationality, your country of citizenship for more than half of the year, and you end up in a country, whether that's Malaysia, whether that's Argentina, whether that's Costa Rica, Croatia, whether you end up in a country that does also not tax your overseas income, because that's what the digital nomad visas are for, then you may actually end up not paying any taxes at all, which is of course very desirable. Now, if you're an American citizen and you move to a foreign country, then what you want to do is you want to make sure that you keep a very close eye on the tax code. Generally speaking, Americans that don't spend the majority of time in the United States, in fact, Americans that have a residence in a foreign country, so they don't spend time in the United States, they live abroad, they typically have a tax exemption of X dollars per year. I think right now it's $110,000 a year. So unless you get to that figure, that amount, whatever that amount is at the time of watching this video, if you get below that amount, you may actually not have to pay taxes in the United States. But again, make sure you consult with a professional tax advisor, and most countries on this planet don't tax their citizens abroad. So they don't spend the majority of time in the country, they live in a foreign country, their governments don't tax them abroad. There are two countries that do that, the United States and one more country. So unless you're from the United States, you probably don't have too much to worry about as a citizen abroad. Last but not least, focus on saving money, preserving capital, and investing, because that's what will ultimately create a great future for yourself. The more discipline you develop, the more saving-minded you become, the easier it will be for you to stick to your routine, to spend less, and again, create the life that you want for the long term, which is, of course, to have multiple income streams. Whatever you want to invest the money in, whatever you want to master, you got to learn it, right? You have to learn an investment vehicle, whatever that is for you. Or you want to learn to invest in another business. You know, if you want to master another business model, it doesn't matter what you want to do. Make sure that you master it, that you dedicate yourself to learning, because the more income streams you have, the better. The more assets you have, the better. That is the only way that you know that you can feel secure in this crazy world. Are there any other talking points that I should have added but didn't? What do you think about this video? Leave a comment below and let us know. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. I'm uploading new videos on digital nomad locations, travel updates, and investment advice several times a week right now. And if you got some more time left, check out these videos.